Okay, so next section is all about personal selling and sales management. Um, this is something that you probably have all kind of understood or been touched by at some point, especially if you've bought a vehicle or a car or even been to like a retail store that's very heavily focused on customer service. There's a whole class in the College of Business called Personal Selling. It's one of the more popular electives. And if you are not sure about if you like to sell, if you are good at selling, if you're good at giving presentations, if that's one of your areas of weakness, this is a really great class to take. It really lets you kind of work through these concepts. But this is part of the marketing mix related to promotion. And I know that that sounds kind of weird because you think selling and you think pricing, but really selling is part. Remember, we talked about the marketing orientation versus the sales orientation at the very beginning of the semester. Well, this is about promotion, and sales can help you promote your product. Personal selling has to do with salespeople, like an actual person that's customer or business focused that can take and help explain the way products work and walk you through the sale of an item. And so there's lots and lots of different ways this can happen, but personal selling is a purchasing situation that helps involve personal paid for communication between multiple people in their attempt to influence one another. So why is this good and why is this bad? Well, this is great because you can understand a product, you can get an explanation for how a product works, you can tailor a message when you're talking to somebody related to their motivations, their concerns, or their interests. Um, you can control your costs by adjusting how many personal salespeople you have. And it can be very, very effective at selling goods and having satisfied customers because they feel like they've gotten a turnkey service. Why could this not be as great? It's expensive, right? If you're paying somebody to sell something instead of this mass communication concept, then it costs you more money. Uh, if you have a sales force or a salesperson who isn't trained well, that can really lead to inconsistent service. It can lead to bad information going to consumers, and it can lead to bad experiences based on whoever the salesperson is because it's harder to control human people who may have bad days, who may not be motivated, who may not be well trained, who may not understand sales, et cetera, et cetera. And so salespeople can only convince customers to make unnecessary purchases as well. And so all of these things can kind of be limitations in personal selling, but a lot of businesses, car dealerships are the most obvious one, they base themselves on having personal salespeople be there to show you all the bells and whistles of a product. So, when should you use personal selling? When does personal selling become important? If a product is expensive, if it is custom, if it has only a few customers that are kind of in a niche market and you really want to appeal to those people and make them feel good and make them want to buy from you. If it's very complicated, like a boat or a vehicle or a motorcycle or a piece of technology, you may need somebody there to kind of explain some things. Your customers are very concentrated in one area. Um, Airplane engines, custom windows, insurance policies, vehicles, any of these examples I've already given, personal selling can really benefit them. Um, you don't need a personal seller for something of low value or standardized, something that everybody uses, something that's easy to use, something that's kind of not geographically concentrated. Magazine subscriptions, t-shirts, soap, pens, pencils, cell phone cases, anything, chargers, anything that like we all understand is just part of our way of life, doesn't really have a lot of value. It doesn't take a lot. Remember we talked about consumer involvement and how involved you get in your research and in the purchase of an item. These low involvement products don't need a personal salesperson. Sales promotion and advertising work just fine. So, we've talked about relationships. This is just the same as it always has been. Relationship selling, also known as consultative selling, is based on building long term relationships and finding really satisfied customers. So, it's easier to keep a customer than it is to gain a new one. We've talked about that. And relationships and building relationships on strong foundations is how that happens. So there's a step to the selling process. This is very formula driven in a lot of companies. They have certain ways they want you to go about this. I had a student in my last semester. He sold Harley Davidsons, and he said, yeah, there was like a set of questions. You kind of walked them around the showroom. We did these certain things before we even talked about what they were there to purchase, because that's what they knew worked for them. So any different businesses have kind of a different step and different process, but this is a very generic way of looking at it. And for the most part, most companies will acquire a sale by going through these steps. They generate leads, they qualify the leads. So a lead is just anybody who um, could potentially be your customer. Um, it takes a lot to gain a customer. And so generating a lead is really important. Qualifying the lead, so deciding whether somebody is worthwhile to spend more time pursuing or not, is kind of how you qualify a lead. So one person would look at the future needs of that person. They may look at the existing qualities of that person, the how much buying power do they have, and kind of their qualities to decide if that's a person they would want to pursue or not. This can also work for businesses. You remember our business marketing section where we talked about selling to different types of businesses and using the NICS codes. So you may say, okay, I've got a local company who really fits into my target market. I'm going to spend more time developing that relationship and qualifying this lead versus somebody else. Understanding your customer after you've kind of looked at these leads and kind of approaching this customer and kind of doing an informal, what we call a needs assessment, deciding what they need, what they're looking for, how well they would work as a customer. Do I need to keep selling to them? In what way? Um, what kind of services do they look for? What's the competition doing to attain this customer? What industry are we in? All of these things kind of play into these top three things, kind of all kind of go together in terms of deciding whether somebody is going to qualify and be a good person to try to sell to. So, um, developing and proposing solutions. So let's kind of think through this. If we're going to buy a vehicle, somebody may generate leads by just you walking onto the lot to look at cars. They may qualify you as a lead. Somebody walks out, they speak to you. Hi, what are you looking for today? Oh, we're just looking. We really don't want to test drive. We're just kind of shopping around. We just wanted to peek in some windows. Great. You go for that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on you. Versus I'm looking for a very specific vehicle. I'm looking to trade in this vehicle. I want to upgrade. I need a bigger size, whatever. Understanding their needs at this point would become important. Let's say we do all that and then we have concerns. Well, it's very expensive, or oh, I don't know if I like this brand, or oh, I really don't know if this is big enough for me. This might be too small of a vehicle. Developing and proposing solutions to concerns is often the easiest way to um, sell a product, because a lot of times if you can address somebody's concerns and you can help handle some of their objections, then you can close the sale, which is item 6. And then the following up is very, very important. So when we follow up, we are making sure that we are ensuring repeat sales, that we're really capitalizing on this relationship, that we're not just looking at you as thank you for coming to buy this, now move along. We really want to make sure that you got the thing that you were looking for, and that you don't have second thoughts, that you don't have questions about how to operate the whatever it is that you bought, that you feel really good about it. And so this following up process is super important to ensuring. Remember I said it's harder to go out and get a new customer, it's easier to keep an old customer. And so that follow up process is where that really comes in, it comes to be really important. So sales management. Now we're going to kind of put on our hat of a sales manager. I'm in charge of people who are selling other goods. So what do sales managers do? They make sure that their sales force, all the people selling, are trying to complete a mission or a goal effectively. They define the goals, they determine the structure, they train, they recruit, they compensate customers, and they continuously look at their sales force to make sure that they are achieving what they're supposed to. A lot of times there's a quota, so salespeople have to sell so much of one thing before they can be promoted, or they have to meet the quota to maintain their employment status, things like that. CRMs, you've heard me talk about this, customer relationship management programs, is really the ultimate new kind of trend and goal in marketing, because it really looks at consumers as individuals, and they kind of say, okay, what does this one person need? And if you go back up to those steps to the sales process, it's very individualized. And so a CRM and the sales process associated with the CRM makes you consumer centric. It says, okay, we are going to offer these things based on what we know that you want. And that can really lead to really satisfied customers. I'm trying to scroll down to this right here because I think this is really the key. Looking at how we obtain customers through campaigns, like whether that be lead generation campaigns, whether that be us trying to go out and meet people, however that looks, gaining new customers, retaining the loyal customers, cross-selling other products and services. So if I know that you know me and you trust me, then by the way, I can sell you other things that we also offer. Understanding targeted communications, reinforcing consumer purchase decisions, trying new products, by letting old customers try new products, and being really effective in how we market ourselves in those channels, and providing really great customer service are all kind of pieces of this marketing concept. A lot of companies do what they call touch points. So the example I have in my head is about fundraising. When I worked for 4-H, we would say we wanted donors, right? Donors donating to the organization is a form of a sale. And so we had an entire group of people that were essentially salespeople that were charged with going out and raising money. And so they had all of these touch points where we would say you need 10 touch points with somebody before you're able to ask them for money. So we get to know you, we build this relationship, we learn what you want, we go through all of these little steps here, and then we say, okay, great. We've had 10 touch points with you, and now we can start to talk about what it would take for you to donate to our organization. Very similar to selling something like a vehicle. Let's say a company sends you something in the mail, and then you see a commercial, and then you talk to somebody, and you have all of these different ways that you've had access to a business. Well, then they kind of combine that and they say, okay, now you're familiar with us. Hopefully we've established some trust, and now we can start talking about selling. And so it really, really looks at making sure consumers are happy and seen as individuals, because we all know that marketing is something that we want consumer satisfaction at the forefront. And so CRM and this process really helps do that. So, like I said, there's a whole class you can take on personal selling. A lot of people are just innate salespeople. They're really good at talking to people. They're really good at kind of selling an idea or a concept to people. And so some people may hear sales and they think, oh, I don't like that. I would never want to do that. And some people think, no, I really think I have a knack for this. I really want to try to be a salesperson. It can be very, very lucrative. It can be a really rewarding profession to be a personal salesperson in many different industries. And so if you're kind of thinking this sounds interesting to you, I really encourage you to look into the personal selling class. We have people in the department that all they do is teach sales. It's a huge part of the industry as well. And so if you think that this sounds interesting, or you think this maybe is a weakness of yours, I would encourage you to really dig into this chapter and maybe even look to some other courses to help expand your knowledge. So thanks for tuning in.